Hi, I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Forum Daily West. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. The grim death toll in last week's massive earthquake surpasses 2,000 in Myanmar. Plus, Lethbridge police catch an arsonist after this surveillance footage release of the culprit scaling a wall to tamper with a gas line. And our Lethbridge Hurricanes on a winning streak as they head to Game 3 of the playoffs in Brandon. Thanks so much for joining us. Markets tumbled this morning as Canada braces for a new wave of U.S. tariffs. U.S. President Donald Trump says Wednesday will be, quote, Liberation Day, when he intends to increase American duties to match the tax rates that other countries charge on imports. But it's unclear how Trump intends to pursue his global tariff agenda this week and how it will hit Canada. Canadians are also waiting to see what happens on Thursday as Trump's 25% levies on automobiles and parts are set to go into effect. Meanwhile, billboards are popping up in various parts of the U.S., paid for by the government of Canada, with messages that say tariffs will hurt Americans. Foreign affairs expert Lisa Daftari says only time will tell how Trump's tariffs will affect the U.S., along with trade relations with Canada.
You do have a lot of Americans who are supportive of Donald Trump, but fearful of what the tariffs will do in the short term, medium term, and potentially long term. And you have others who think, okay, this is part of the growing pains of making things fair, and we have to, just wait and see. Again, the time will tell kind of mantra comes into play. And you have others who are very, very critical of tariffs and very critical of Donald Trump really ruining the wonderful relationship that we have with Canada.
Tariffs are also top of mind on the campaign trail. In New Brunswick, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said his campaign vision is what Canada needs to fight off American trade aggression. During a Q&A with reporters, Poilievre brushed off concerns about his campaign's falling polling numbers.
My purpose in politics is to restore Canada's promise so that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything. It's hard work. Gets you a great life and a beautiful, affordable home on a safe street, protected by brave troops under a proud flag. All the things that we need to do to respond to the economic aggression of the Americans are things I've been talking about for 10 years. I was standing up for pipelines 10 years ago when Mark Carney was opposing them. I've been saying that we need to approve resource projects quickly for the last 10 years while Mark Carney was supporting C-69 and the energy cap and other Liberal policies. I've stood up for tax cuts that will unleash growth in our economy over the last 10 years, in fact, over my entire career. The threats, the unjustified threats by President Trump further strengthen the argument in favor of the Canada First agenda that I've been fighting for my whole life.
Poilievre has pledged a Canada First national energy corridor for pipelines and other projects to get Canada's energy and resources to markets inside and outside of the country. Today, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh was in Victoria before traveling to Edmonton. He says the way Canada wins this fight with its neighbor is by doubling down on our values, like taking care of each other and protecting our environment. At a stop in Port Moody on Sunday, he proposed publicly backed low-interest loans for first-time home buyers.
This would make a huge difference in people's lives. They'd be able to have affordable loans so they can actually buy their first home. If you think about it, just a 5% difference on an interest rate could save families as much as $9,500 over 5 years. That's more money to buy your groceries, more money to save up for the things that you need. That's our plan, a plan that's in it for you.
Meantime, Liberal leader Mark Carney sung a similar tune. He promised Monday to get the federal government back into the business of home building. He promised a Carney government would create a new entity, Build Canada Homes, to act as a developer on housing projects and provide more than $25 billion in financing to innovative builders of prefabricated homes. More than 350,000 Ontarians were without power after a weekend ice storm. Most of the outages were in cottage country, but tens of thousands of customers between the eastern edge of the Greater Toronto Area and Kingston, Ontario, also lost power overnight. The storm is moving east, threatening parts of Quebec, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. Liberal candidate Paul Chiang has apologized for comments he made in January about a Conservative candidate who had a bounty placed on him by Hong Kong police last December. The Toronto Association for Democracy in China said in a release that Chiang told Chinese language newspaper Ming Pao 3 months ago that everyone at a conference could claim a bounty if the candidate was brought to Toronto's Chinese consulate. Conservative candidate for Don Valley North, Joe Tay, is among 6 overseas activists targeted by Hong Kong police, which in December announced a bounty of $180,000 for information leading to his arrest. Liberal leader Mark Carney says Chiang had a terrible lapse in judgment and is not firing him as a candidate. In Calgary, a Liberal candidate has been dropped by his party over failure to disclose a 20-year-old domestic assault charge that was stayed 6 weeks after it was laid. Real estate broker Thomas Keeper was announced as the Liberal candidate in Calgary Confederation on March the 11th. Court records show that Keeper was charged with common assault on June 6 of 2005. The complainant was Keeper's wife at the time. According to divorce records, the charge was stayed on July 20th, just over 6 weeks after it was laid. The deadline to submit candidates for nomination to Elections Canada is April 6th at 2 p.m., leaving the Liberals another week to find and submit names. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is calling on federal party leaders to stop a pair of policies that will take effect on Tuesday. On April the 1st, MPs, cabinet members, and the Prime Minister are getting pay raises, while taxes on beer, wine, and spirits will be automatically raised. Franco Terrazzano, federal director for the CTF, says this 1-2 punch adds insult to injury.
Right on the same day, they're increasing their own pay as they increase taxes on beer, wine, and spirits. So look, all politicians who are running in this federal election need to answer these 2 questions. Number 1, why do you politicians think you deserve a raise? And number 2, why do you think Canadians can afford another tax hike? And look, these members of parliament are already taking huge taxpayer-funded salaries. The raise on April 1 will range between an extra $6,200 for a backbench member of parliament, all the way up to an extra $12,400 for the prime minister. So after the raise, you're looking at an annual salary for a backbencher that's about $209,000, right? That's about 3 times more than what the average Canadian worker makes in a year. A minister's salary will be close to $309,000, and the prime minister's salary will be just shy of $420,000.
The alcohol escalator automatically increases excise taxes on beer, wine, and spirits every year on April 1st without a vote in Parliament. That tax has cost taxpayers more than $900 million since it was imposed in 2017, according to Beer Canada estimates. Authorities in Myanmar say the grim death toll in last week's massive earthquake has passed over 2,000. An activist group says the 7.7 magnitude quake killed several hundred Muslims praying at mosques during Ramadan and 270 Buddhist monks crushed by a collapsing monastery. Aid groups are also warning that the quake could exacerbate hunger and disease outbreaks. In local news, Lethbridge police responded to a high-risk incident on Monday at a residence along the 5th Avenue North near Emmanuel Christian Elementary School. Little is clear at the moment, but BCN on the scene captured what appeared to be police confronting a woman at 2139 Fifth Avenue North. In the video, her hand appears bloodied and was shouting obscenities to police out of a broken window of a residence. A dozen police vehicles on the scene blocked off the road and advised the public to stay away from the area. Emmanuel Christian Elementary was also put on lockdown at the time. It's unclear what factors are behind this incident. BCN will provide the updates whenever they become available. Lethbridge police have charged a 24-year-old man in connection with a pedestrian collision that resulted in serious injuries of two youths who were crossing the street near Catholic Central High School last week. On March 25th at approximately 7:45 a.m., that is, police responded to the pedestrian collision along the 1700 block of 3rd Avenue South. Investigators determined an SUV was traveling eastbound along 3rd Avenue South when it struck the two 17-year-olds crossing in the crosswalk at 17th Street South. Both victims were taken to hospital. One sustained minor injuries and the other was admitted to the hospital with significant injuries but is expected to recover. One of Lethbridge's downtown historic buildings was targeted by an arsonist over the weekend. The Acadia building in the 600 block of 3rd Avenue South was set on fire around 2 in the morning on Saturday, March 29th. Now, in this footage taken from a video surveillance camera at the property, you can see the suspect come around the corner and he appears to activate an outside light as he begins to climb up the back stairs. In another clip, he lays down on the stairway and he actually looks right up at the camera. And then finally watch how he scales the walls from the stairs to get onto the roof area there. The owner of the building did not wish to appear on camera, but he had this to say in a statement. He says, quote, "I'm eternally grateful to the Good Samaritan who called in just after 2 a.m. and for the rapid response from both the Lethbridge Police Service and Lethbridge Fire Department. No one was home at the time of this brazen attack or working in the businesses on the street level. The arsonist was clearly intent on doing harm and causing damage as he had to scale a wall to access the outdoor patio area on the roof and choose to tamper with a natural gas barbecue line that was used to start the fire," end quote. No one was injured in the fire, but multiple fire units did attend and extinguished that fire, which caused extensive damage to the building. And according to the owner, smoke and water damage impacted the businesses on the street level as well. Police also noted evidence of an attempted break-in to one of the units. However, entry was not gained. Around 9:30 on Saturday morning, police located the man in the video and he was arrested without incident. Tommy Lee Dayrider, 37 of Lethbridge, is charged with arson to property, a disregard for human life, attempted house breaking, and possession of a controlled substance of fentanyl. He is scheduled to appear in court on April the 2nd. Well, it might not feel like it this week, but spring is here, and that means the season of yard waste collection is also beginning. Along with it, the community should follow the instructions and hours for disposing of cut branches and leaves. The city's residential yard waste sites will open this Tuesday, April 1st. The West, South, and North depots will be open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. James Nichols, Waste and Environment Collections Manager with the City of Lethbridge, gives some recommendations.
We do ask that residents come with paper bags, preferably at those sites, to dispose of any of that excess yard waste material as we hopefully get into our springtime here. As typical fashion, Southern Alberta always throws us a curveball or two. A couple items that we want to recommend, make sure that we're not bringing mixed loads to the sites. So again, if you have branches, make sure that they're coming no more than 6 feet in length or 8 inches in diameter. Ensure that the leaves or any other items, pumpkins, fallen fruits that have gone, they are brought separate in those paper bags. So if you're cleaning up your backyard, trimming up some of those trees here as we get into spring, yard waste sites are the perfect place to bring those materials.
Nichols also says the city's yearly giveaway of free compost is going to happen this Saturday at the downtown library from 1 p.m. until 4 p.m. Well, Dutch elm disease season is also here. And to prevent elm species in Alberta and Lethbridge from being affected by this disease, the community is reminded of the annual elm pruning ban during April and September. Anna Larney, urban forestry technician with the City of Lethbridge, explains that these insects transmit harmful fungi that can cause the death of a large elm tree in a single season.
Dutch elm disease is a really detrimental invasive disease that was introduced to North America in the early 1900s, and we're so fortunate that it hasn't reached Alberta in any serious capacity yet. Open wounds on elm trees release a pheromone that attracts elm bark beetles. These are the insects that carry the fungus called Dutch elm disease. There are about 5,700 public elm trees. The area around the hospital and Gyro Park, all those big, beautiful trees that make the canopies over the streets are elm trees. So some of the first symptoms that present themselves are big branches having the leaves wilting, turning yellow, and then eventually falling off. Don't move firewood. That's the huge thing. That's how we think Dutch elm disease came to Lethbridge in 2020 with those two cases. So many people were camping that year because of the pandemic. And so moving firewood more than just a few kilometers is a huge vector for transportation of insects and disease. That's how a lot of invasive species move around.
Ontario Judge Justice Peter Osborne has rejected the restructuring agreement proposed by the Hudson's Bay Company, which may allow lenders to push the company into receivership. The agreement sought to increase power over the company's creditor protection process to the retailer's senior secured lenders. They also looked to impose a weekly budget on the company, which they'd regularly report to the lenders. Hudson's Bay began seeking creditor protection on March 7th once it admitted that it owed nearly $1 billion in debts to various creditors. That is your Forum Daily West report. I'm Jeanette Roche. Thanks so much for watching.